Join the Poe Center's kitchen expert today for 5 simple ways to preserve basil and other herbs.
We've just finished harvesting our sweet potatoes from our summer garden, and now it's time to harvest our herbs, just in time for fall. I can't think of a better season to use herbs in all of our cooking. Hey, I'm Taylor, a kitchen specialist here at the Poe Center. Welcome to our garden. You'll know your basil plant is ready to harvest when it begins to bolt or go to seed. When this happens, the plant will focus its energy on seeds and the leaves will start to lose their quintessential flavor. To harvest your basil leaves, cut each stalk back to the base and carefully pinch off the bright green leaves. Leaves that have started to yellow and brown can be left behind. Basil bruises very easily, so be careful to pinch the whole leaf at the base and handle with care during this process. If you want to save a cutting from your basil plant, simply cut a couple of inches below the leaves and save the stalk. We'll discuss how to preserve a cutting in water once we get into the kitchen. Once you've finished your harvest, you can cut the plant down to the ground and compost the leftover stems. Here we have additional summer herbs. So now we're going to show you how to take clippings from these and save them in the kitchen to use throughout the fall and winter in your recipes. Now that we have all of our harvest, let's get to the kitchen and we'll start preserving. Welcome to the Cookwell Kitchen. We're gonna start off by harvesting our summer herbs that are not basil. So here I have some thyme and some sage. You can do these preservation methods with any other summer herb that you had too. It could work for dill, parsley, oregano, you name it, it'll work for that. So we'll always start by washing your herbs first. So we've already done this step, but you wanna make sure that your herbs are really, really clean and then completely dried before you go ahead with the preservation techniques. So we'll start with the sage. You're gonna wanna dice the sage or slice the sage really finely, just making little strips along the edge of the leaves. And for our woody stemmed herbs like thyme or rosemary, you wanna strip the leaves off of the stalk, and then you're gonna dice those finely as well. So once you have those all chopped up, you can add them into whatever freezer safe container you have, like a bag or a ramekin, and pop them in the freezer. It's as simple as that. You don't need oil or water, you just freeze them as is, and then they're ready to go whenever you need them in a recipe. I do recommend making a note on your container how much is in there. For example, 1 tablespoon fits in this bag, and that way when you're pulling it out for recipes, you know exactly what you have. Now that we have our other herbs frozen, we can also dehydrate them. So here I have some oregano that has been put in the oven. On the lowest setting that you have, you might have a dehydrator setting on your oven, about 150 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour. You can do this for any herb, including basil. For more information about how to dehydrate, you can visit our website, which is linked below. Now we're gonna preserve our basil. The simplest and first one we'll go over is simply taking a cutting of basil and adding it to a cup of water. So you wanna make sure that you have extra space for that stem with no leaves on it to sit into the water. And after about 2 weeks, it'll develop roots and it will stay in this cup on your countertop, preferably in a sunny windowsill for several weeks. And you can just pick the leaves off and use as you would fresh basil. This lasts maybe up to a month, depending on the frequency of how often you're gonna use it. Our next preservation technique is called a flat lay. So what you're gonna wanna do is take about a cup of whole basil leaves, place them in a bowl, and for every 1 cup of basil leaves, you're gonna want about a teaspoon of olive oil. So we'll take our teaspoon and drizzle the oil over, and then very carefully mix the oil so it's coating all of our leaves. You can do this with your hands or with a spoon. Just be sure to be really gentle because the basil is gonna bruise really easily. So once this is completely coated, you're gonna take a freezer bag. Make sure you label it so you know how much is in there, the date, and what it is. So for this one, we'll write basil, today's date, and that it's about 1 cup of leaves. So that way you know how much you're working with when you pull it out of the freezer. So you'll open that up, put your leaves in, and we're gonna flatten these out so that they freeze in a big clump. So make sure that all the leaves are together in your bag in one big clump. Get as much air out as you possibly can, flattening it out and seal it up. So once you have it flattened out, you'll pop it in the freezer, and whenever you need it, you can just break off a piece. Just a note here, it will turn a little bit darker in color once you put it in the freezer, but that's totally fine. It'll just look a little bit different than it does now. Our next 3 preservation techniques involve an ice cube tray. So our first one is going to be packing basil in just water. So all you're gonna wanna do is take your clean and dry basil leaves and place them into the cube. Now, every cube is gonna be a different size, so your ice cube tray might be a little different at home. Ours hold about a tablespoon. So we're gonna place the leaves straight into the container. Take our fresh water and carefully pour it over so that the leaves are completely covered, and you might need to push them down just a little bit, and those will freeze just like that in the water whole. This is a really great technique if you're making soup or any sort of water-based meal. You can just pop the cube right in there and you'll have a fresh basil flavor in your soup. For our second technique in the ice cube tray, it's really similar. You're gonna take the leaves, just as you did with water, place them into the cube, pack them in there, and then pour in extra virgin olive oil instead of water. So same thing, you wanna cover the leaves completely and let any air bubbles kind of rise to the top. For our third preservation technique in the ice cube tray, this is a really great way to preserve prepared sauces like pesto or chimichurri, which we'll prepare together now. Now let's prepare a chimichurri. Chimichurri is a condiment often found in Argentina and Uruguay. Today we're gonna make it with our basil instead of parsley, which is a little more traditional. So the simple basic recipe is 1/4 cup of olive oil, a tablespoon of red wine vinegar, a half teaspoon of red pepper flakes, a half teaspoon salt, and a half teaspoon of that dried oregano that we made earlier today. We also have 1 clove of garlic, minced. I'm gonna use a garlic press to help me mince it even finer, but if you don't have a garlic press at home, you can just chop it as finely as you can. Traditionally, like I said, this is made with parsley, so you'd use about 1 cup of parsley here before it's cut. We're gonna use basil today, so I have 3 cups of basil frozen here in this flat lay form. I'm gonna take about 1/3 of it out and chop it really fine, and then we're gonna add that into our sauce. Chimichurri is traditionally used as a marinade or a topping for meats, but it's really good on a lot of other things. So I would recommend trying it on eggs or roasted veggies, which is what we're gonna try it with today. Once you're done enjoying your chimichurri, you can preserve it for longer term in the ice cube trays that we talked about earlier. You'd simply spoon it into the cube and pop it in the freezer to take out and use whenever you'd like. Today we've prepared baby potatoes to go with our chimichurri. You can use any roasted vegetable that you like. Fall is a great time to prepare roasted veggies. For our all-purpose roasted vegetable recipe, you can visit our website or find it at the link below. So now that we've prepared all of our herbs for preservation, we can enjoy them all fall and winter long. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to stay Poe Fit.
Want to learn more about gardening or are looking for garden to kitchen resources? Check us out online at poefit.org and poehealth.org. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. If you want more video content like this, hit the like button, subscribe, and comment your favorite summer herb. See you next time!